For us, Piv. We're interviewing you now. How did you get Berk on the show?
I think I heard your question, which was, how did we get such an amazing guest?
Yes, how did you do it? What is your process?
There was a POAP from the gallery. From the
SOV one, you mean?
The SOV, yes. And Berk sent them, so and I asked one, so that's how we got in touch, I think. But it's an amazing exhibition in the CryptoPunk gallery.
Wow, the Pope.
The Pope.
That's amazing. Okay, cool. So we have the opener out of the way. Thank you, Piv. That's just a lesson for everyone listening to this part now, because this is going to be cut from the podcast. But go to the CryptoPunk Museum, get the Pope, and you can meet your idol and bring them on your podcast and talk about how you did it in the opening, which will be cut. So we are starting now.
Yeah,
hello,
everyone. I still have a couple of Popes left, I guess, like 5 or 6. So if you join the museum and share a screenshot on Twitter, I will DM you with the Pope link.
That's amazing. I will do that after this talk, but everyone in here, if you want to beat me to it. And also, by the way, I'm officially considering it a Pope for listening to this podcast. So I will track the ID, and then you will get credit for it won't be visible anywhere, but I will write it down. So that'll be Pope for this podcast too. So please check out, it's on cyber.io/SovPunk, which is an amazing museum and probably the best exhibition in it right now in terms of playing with the form. So welcome to the Capital 21 podcast. This is a podcast about art, the blockchain, technology, and a focus on timeless art enabled by the blockchain. I'm Tom Lehman. My internet name is Middlemarch. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Dovetail and Piv, spanning a bunch of different time zones. This very special episode, usually it's 5 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday, but today it is noon because we are joined with a very, very, very special guest who I'm very excited about, and Piv somehow landed. No one knows how he did it, and that guest is the creator of a variety of projects. You might know him best for Bastard Gan Punks and also Bastard Gan Punks V1, but he has a lot to talk about, a lot of projects, and his name is Berk Ozdemir. Hope I'm saying that right. Berk, hello and welcome.
Thank you. Hello. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So we're going to cover a bunch of topics here. Obviously, Berk's work, but also maybe we're going to get some tips and tricks from him by way of story and analogy and his background, and also just general tips and tricks about how you can become like him, how you can become featured in the CryptoPunk gallery, but also, how you can just become a greater appreciator and creator of blockchain art generally, if you're not special. So why don't we do this? Why don't we dive into the Bastard Gan Punks, because that's personally what I'm the most interested in, and I think most people are too. And then we can kind of, go around, because the Bastard Gan Punks are, I think, and I want to pigeonhole you, your best known thing, at least to me. And they're also very, very well featured in the museum exhibition, the CryptoPunk Museum, which is fascinating because they are juxtaposed with the original punks, which are worth way more money, but are maybe only for boomers. I feel like you've written that. So that juxtaposition also, I think, is amazing. So talk to us just a little bit about the Bastard Gan Punks. Just this is number one for, I think, a lot of people.
So the project had started around 2020. So I was interested in GAN technology and the machine learning and creating images with artificial intelligence. I had a classmate in my master's degree who was doing this kind of fancy stuff, and I also wanted to work on them. So I had found out about NFTs on 2019, and there were a few big collections out there. And one of the collections that grasped my attention was the CryptoPunks. And also, I was also interested in CryptoKitties. I was breeding new ones and was minting some kitties and stuff. And at that time, my computer was not very good, and my graphics card was shit. So I had to do the experiment, and I thought that, like, okay, these NFT collectibles have many variants, and I can use those as a data set. I don't want to use flowers or skyscrapers, or I don't know, dog pictures, cat pictures. I want to play around with the things I'm following currently. So the reason actually I chose CryptoPunks because they were the lowest resolution possible. So yeah, because like I could also work with CryptoKitties, but then I couldn't train them on my computer. So I prepared the data set with CryptoPunks on my computer and started training them, and I started generating new CryptoPunks who are similar to the originals but not quite like them.
So let me just jump in and sort of ask you a question about this process, right? Because and that's a very interesting backstory in terms of why picking the CryptoPunks. You know, to me, like now to pick the CryptoPunks, I would think of the CryptoPunks as like a dog. You know, it's just like such an iconic element of like, you know, NFT culture. It's like the most basic thing to pick. But back then, I think obviously you had to be thinking a little bit, you know, futuristically. So just to help people understand, because I actually didn't know this until pretty recently. I still don't totally get it. So like GAN, okay, the meaning of that, you know, the literal meaning of that acronym, and then when you say training the computer and then things came out, just kind of breaking that down into kind of like someone who's new to this, steps for someone who's new to this, understand that process.
Okay, I'm not going to be able to explain it very detailed because I know how it works, but I'm kind of horrible explaining it to people. But it's a kind of a technology which is like it, which is a artificial network where there is like two different net yeah, I think in the GAN network there are two different networks, which is one of them is a discriminator side and the other one is the something else side. So you when you feed the image into this algorithm, it tries to like convince the other algorithm inside it that it's producing the rightest images in a way. So when it's training itself, it starts with random input with random images. Then it gets closer to the original dataset images. Like if you put like 10,000 dogs, it starts with noise, but after some training steps, the output looks more similar to the dog pictures. But in the process you can see that if on the early stage the algorithm outputs dog images, but it's messed up, like because it still haven't learned all the details yet.
Got it. So that makes sense. So like there, or let me just see if I can clarify. So you have two algorithms doing this, but you could imagine it's like a person. So you could imagine the computer is, you're sitting there and the computer, you feed it to the punks and the computer shows you a picture and says, could this be a punk? And you say, no, that's just noise. Could this be a punk? Okay, that's better. But and it does that like a million times. And then eventually you say, oh, that's barely a punk. And that,
yes,
I'll say yes. But it's not a human doing it. It's another computer doing it. Is that kind of like the way it works?
okay, thank you for explaining it much simpler than I just couldn't find the right words for it.
No, I mean, I think your explanation helped me even say that. But the idea is it comes from noise, and you want to get, and this is a question, actually, you want to get, you start with the worst possible garbage, and you get just to barely the point of it being close enough, and then you stop, and that's why the BGAN punks, right, look like pretty messed up, but they're just recognizable enough. And so that's, you're trying to get the worst possible thing that's not, it's good enough to be kind of a punk is the idea behind the algorithm.
So the thing is that this was an experimental process for me because I appreciated all the steps of this process. in a way, because after a couple of days of the training, I realized that I'm not fascinated with the most similar outputs of the algorithm. I'm more fascinated by the early stage of the training, because they look stupid, they look ugly, they look like messed up with all the pixels around, and you kind of resemble the original one, but they are definitely not it.
So they were too good, actually.
And also the concept of bastards came up from this ugliness.
Berk, so they were too good.
Go ahead, Pip.
They were too good, in fact, the final ones.
Yeah, final ones are almost identical.
Okay.
Yeah, in the version one, I made a technical mistake with resizing the images, so they would never look like the same. But on version two, yeah, like on the late stage, they just looked like the originals.
Okay.
So you have to stop it before, you got to be a little more artistic than the adversarial like algorithm. You say, stop it a little early. Let me get some of the messed up glitch vibe. So that's really interesting, because like there's a bunch of different angles here when you look at it. Like there's the background too, which seems like it has some so there's background is obviously big variation. There's left or right, which is a big variation in terms of the facing of the punk. Some of them have the big let's call it the big, I guess it's a bad habit, right? Called the big smoke bad habit. So was this related to what you fed into it? Because computer probably couldn't come up with the big smoke on its own, or how did that work?
Me. Okay. Am I back? Yeah. So that for the second version, so for the first version, I used the original CryptoPunks only. So I just got the images. I cropped all the CryptoPunks and fed them into the network. But for the second version, I realized that in the first version, some of the traits were missing, because they were very rare, so they didn't show up. So I had to prepare a new data set with all the traits on, like the well balanced data set with all traits, different hats, different accessories, hairs, and stuff. And yeah, there were a couple of traits I added to, like a couple of hats, and I made some of the accessories gender neutral, because like the female heads are small and the male heads are big, so every hat didn't fit the other gender, so I made a different version. I put the big smoke. I put the blunt.
And so, yeah, I think just everyone out there, I was kind of jumping around. There are two versions, as Berk says, and so you should look at both of these. They're V1 and V2, and they're similar, but also like pretty different in the way that Berk is saying. But anyway, the process you described of figuring out how all the traits work and fit together, something we too have struggled with, right? Because in the V1, does seem much more pure, right, with this approach. It's just like it is what it is, and I see that the resizing wasn't perfect, so the noses are too thin and so forth. But the approach is quite pure. V2, which is much more successful, I would say, on the most crass commercial level, but is also much more commercial and in a good way, which is to say you've got the better trait representation, and you've got rarity, right? There's rarity on your site. It lists Inglorious Bastard is the most rare, I believe, and then of course on OpenSea you can filter by all these traits. So you mentioned that you were feeding in the traits that were new, but then how did you categorize, like, okay, this thing that came out had this trait, or I guess you applied the trait after it came out, or how did you end up with something that is so glitched out but also still adheres to some of the iconic tropes of the punk derivative PFP project, like the listed traits in the
Okay,
metadata?
this is an interesting thing. I think this hadn't happened in any NFT project before, because the traits are still an ongoing process by the community. So the only trait I had put was this bastardness trait, which was very arbitrary, just for fun. I was putting memes, and I was just collecting Twitch emotes and memes as traits. on BGAN Punks, and but after I released the project, people were hunting for the rarities, and like, okay, there is this collection of 10,000, yeah, like 1,100 pieces, but how can we browse through them? So like the community did a really hard work on um, categorizing the different traits, and they did like months long discussions on how to make the definitions. Like it's very sophisticated stuff. I'm still surprised about that, because I still remember the discussions on Discord, and like the Excel sheets, like like for like for like for the face type, like for something to be a zombie and ape, like there are very specific things that you need to seek. For example, like that people agreed on, like for zombie there needs to be a kind of red in the pupil, but it can't go beyond that redness. Like if it's an orange or pinkish, it is not considered as a zombie and
That's
stuff.
really interesting, because that I think that's a great point, because and I think your project really helps that happen, because I think in real, quote unquote, real life, like if you were discovering something, you would not also have the guidebook that says exactly what it
Hmm.
is, and so you'd have to kind of figure it out yourself, and also you might have some ambiguity. And so part of what makes, I think, the original CryptoPunk kind of this like fun, camp thing, is that it's really just like, like the game Guess Who or whatever. It's just like so rigid and it's all mix and match, and that's it. But I think your thing, your project really, yeah, mirrors what it would be like to kind of discover something like the crypto punks as if they were, generated, and have
Hmm.
to. That's fascinating. So basically, you go in from like a technical standpoint, is, you go in once the categorization has happened, you go in and kind of update the metadata on IPFS, and then
Hmm.
it reflects in OpenSea. Okay, wow. So it's very cool. So the thing you
Yeah,
see on OpenSea is a result of a lot of work. Basically, I go to it and I see it, and it just seems like, okay, like this looks cool, like this is someone did this, and it was a lot of work, but it was really a lot of work because it started out blank on OpenSea, basically.
yeah. There's like months of work by many people, and it's still ongoing. Like now people were discussing about adding the background as a trait, and there were like a proposal on the DAO to lock up the traits at some point, and people disagreed on it. And yeah, I think this is what's interesting about this project, because normally the generative collectible projects always used to be putting some layered images on together, so the traits were determined in the first place. But before began packs, I also remember in hash masks, when they released the project, they had all these traits, but like they had some small Easter eggs, and people were hunting for them. They weren't in the traits, but some of them, yes, some of the images had halo on the top of the head, and people in a couple of days they just noticed it out and hunted for them, the people who are interested in them. So I think doing a project with like a generative adversarial network and the AI and stuff, like you yeah, like the machine just produces images without giving a fuck about all the traits and stuff. It's just producing stuff. So basically, and
It's
you.
kind of a sort of intense, thing also, because there's no one to, no one to ask. And that's one of my big things, of course. Like, there's no way to ask the artist ever, and I don't even know why I'm asking you stuff, but like, what isn't, there's no ask the author type of thing. And then,
Mhm.
even if you can't ask the author, you think, well, there's probably some reason for this, even if I can't like ask the person, because they're gonna tell some story that I don't understand or whatever. But like with the GAN, there's just no, and Dovetails talked about this a lot. It's purely the black box. There's no
Mhm.
authorial intent. at all. And so, living in that world, you got to celebrate it. It's a lot of kind of chaos, really. And so, yeah, I think that's really, really cool. You mentioned the DAO. Is that what? Talk a little bit about that structure here. I did not know about like the governance structure and how you made these decisions. But did you set up a DAO for the project to make these calls, or how did that work?
So I've always been a person who can only work personally and cannot handle working with a group and managing projects with, like, I don't know, giving tasks to people and stuff. And I did this project all by myself. Thanks to a couple of my friends, they helped me after I released the project, like with the community management and social media. But other than those, it was all me. So, like, since the project got a lot of hype and there were lots of collectors and followers, I was under a lot of pressure, and I tried to manage the project by myself for a long while. But then I realized that, okay, if I stay as the manager and the only boss of the project, like, it won't go well, because, like, I have my mental breakdowns sometimes. Also some personal stuff, but people are always looking for some news and stuff. So, and thankfully, our community had a lot of intelligent people who were very interested in experimenting with new types of governance systems and DAOs and stuff. So at some point, after 6 7 months, I released the version 2. um I talked with a couple of dear, yeah, dear community members that I trust, to get their opinion before. Then I wrote an announcement, and I said that, okay, now we are turning this project into a DAO. The community will have voice, and they will have their own system, and I will leave all the secondary sales, up to this point, most of them, as the treasure. And like Snoop Lion and the other people in our community were already experimenting with governance on DAOs, so um, they created this, what, a constitution for the DAO, like how the proposals can be made, how the how are they are going to vote it, what are the vote weights gonna be and stuff. So then the project started operating that way, and I just became a regular community member who is just contributing to the project whenever I have an idea, basically. And I always try to contribute as much as I can, but, like, sometimes I have my other stuff that I can't pay much attention to the project, but sometimes I just find a lot of time that I can do. So it also gave me a lot of space to be more productive for it. And also, lots of interesting things happened with the DAO. I'm
I think
pretty
that's
happy.
amazing. I mean, I can definitely understand, your initial perspective, which is like, I'm putting stuff out there. That's what I want to do. I don't want to, have to deal with all this other stuff. Like people are really, it can be tough to deal with. And especially, when the expectations are high, it's not necessarily what the artist, the creator signed on for. And so, to really make that total transformation, I think is, quite impressive. And also, seems like a lot of work and definitely not what you
Mm-hmm.
signed on for. Is there any, for an artist out there, because you did it out of, necessity, you weren't trying to, right, hearing the story, be like, okay, I want the glamour of the DAO. It was like, oh, I need to get an outlet for for this stuff. So, for an artist who's maybe you're in that position, or maybe like not as crazy of a position, but like thinking about this kind of stuff, like any quick advice or things you could have done differently, like if someone's trying to like make this big transformation and do something with this community governance thing, any advice you can offer just quickly from your experience?
And I have another question that is a bit related, but how did you find this community? How did it start? Because before you have a project, you can't really have a community.
So, okay, for a question. So my first collector for BGANs has been CryptoPunk. So after, so like I had made the V1 version 1, and no one gave a care for it for maybe 3-4 months, and CryptoPunk collected all my first V1s and contacted me, and it gave me courage. I made new ones, and a couple of new people joined, and I was and I someone told me to open a Discord because I could build a community. I opened the Discord. There were like 20-30 people, and and people started DMing like, okay, whales are watching you for your next project and stuff, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And like when I released V2, like it was the thing, because like it went viral on those days. Like the crypto Kobe, he first tweeted about it and bought like 100, or minted like 100 BGANs, and like people started flooding in, and like Mark Cuban bought some, and it went crazy. So suddenly there were like people spamming the Discord, like it was like 20 messages every second. So it happened very quickly.
Yeah.
So who are these whales? I've always wondered, whales are watching. It's like who are? I guess Sov is Sov a whale? I don't know if I would ask him to his face. It's kind of maybe a crass question, but would you say Sov is a whale? No, you don't answer that. Yeah, he's a whale.
I don't know. There were some whales. Like there was some guy who was the biggest holder at that time. I personally don't like this person that much, to be honest. Like it was Haralabos Volgaris, the advisor of Mark Cuban, the NBA better guy, like the poker player and stuff. There's a big collector called Matt M4T, who is like the biggest art blocks collector, and also has a lot of hashmarks and other they're like shit ton of NFTs. And I don't remember much names. Like the Kobe is one of the people, but the whales that the person mentioned to me, I don't know who they were.
I love it. I love it. So,
but most of the whales, like the person I mentioned that I don't like much, like their intention was just only speculating, so they like capitulated most of their stuff. So they left the project after a couple of months. So like now there are some vegan whales, but they are mostly the enthusiastic, like the aesthetic lover, and the crazy bastardos people right now.
Who helped it build in the Discord?
Yeah.
and so your PFP right now, I'm trying to actually like make sense of this here a little bit, because it looks like a V1. It kind of reminds me of
Yes.
93, the iconic one from the Sov exhibition. But is that what is this PFP that you're rocking right now?
Okay, so Segwit with it's he is a community member. He started making putting hoodies on the BGANs of community members who wanted on Photoshop. So we made a collection together. So we made hoodie version of some of the BGANs on the collections. So I also asked him to make put a hoodie on my V1, and he did it. So and I'm rocking it right now.
Very cool. And it is 93 then. Is that?
Yeah, it's just a honorable collection that we both made. Like there are some really cool artists in our community who just likes to make derivatives and remixes of vegans, and yeah, it's I was a little bit late, but I just started helping them kind of making the projects into NFT collectibles. So we are working
Very
together.
cool. So the name of the project, Bastard Gan.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? How did you choose that as the name? It's quite iconic, I think. I remember when I first heard it, I was like, whoa, what's that? It sounds better than, a more nerdy name. It has GAN in there, so it has some of the nerd element, but you say Bastard GAN, that to me is a thing together. It's not just two things. So how do you think of that name?
So I don't remember the exact time I found this name. Probably I was a little bit stoned. Uh, so when I was experimenting with the GAN and producing these punks, as I said in the earlier, I like the earlier versions of the training because the productions were ugly and messy and pixelated. So I thought like, okay, these are punks children in a way, but their parents are not certain because you cannot find the direct connection from like, okay, where did this punk get this trait from? But they are ugly, so um came up with this bastard's idea because it's normally a discriminating word, but it also means that, okay, in this world of elitist punks who are calling themselves punks, who, who are getting sold for lots of ether and stuff. These are the uglier children of them, but they are the new generation. They are going to be the younger generation who is going to make all the revolution. I don't know. They will be the newcomers and stuff. And yeah, I embraced this idea to call myself bastards. I said that, okay, I think I would rather call myself bastard than a punk at this point. And
Yeah.
I'm happy that also people love this idea and also still calling themselves bastards.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it also just plays with, just one of the classic now, complete ironies, and as you say, of the whole situation, which is the true boomer, super expensive, insanely, and then that's the punk thing. It's like CryptoPunks. They're super punk. I don't think so. But giving people the ability to play with that is a very cool thing they did, and I think yours is, one of the coolest. You have a piece of art in the So Gallery, which I was looking at, which is kind of, taking not just Bastard Gan, but like putting it all together. Bastard Gan, it says, is an online political crypto autonomous organization that wants to change the world. Then it defines it. It says, a Bastard Gan Punk is a person who is the offspring of a politician, a big business executive, a large religious leader, a famous author, a celebrity, a sports hero, a police officer, a judge, a prominent artist, a famous musician, and it goes on like this. A Hollywood star, a mafia boss, or a wannabe is a self-aware person who makes use of alternative political strategies to affect positive social change. So this is very funny. You should, everyone I think should go to the gallery, and it's a video. You could read this, but it's a great format for this of a video, because you're like, okay, finally he's going to tell me what a Bastard Gan Punk is, and it just like lists out like a million things. You're like, okay, get to the point. So it's very, very, very funny. How did this video come about?
So this that video is the manifesto of Bastard Gan Punks. I made it in GPT-3, but of OpenAI. I just wrote. I think Bastard Gan Punks is a crypto political organization or something. Just one sentence, and the AI wrote the rest, and I loved it. Like it was very cool, and I was like, okay, this is how it should be. Also, it is written by AI. It fits the narrative very well, so it should be a part of the lore. So
That's amazing.
It became the manifesto of the project, in a way.
And this is something I think GPT-3 is great at, which is the repetition thing. Like sometimes it writes something, and other times it writes something, just go off the rails and saying everything, repeating, but also just like giving a zillion. Like no one would actually write a comma list that big unless they were being cute. But the GPT-3 thing is like, yeah, of course, why not? A TV star, a politician, a celebrity singer. I mean, these are all relevant, so shove them in there. Yeah, I love this. I think one question then, this is a good kind of jump then, because I think you were doing, I mean, it might be safe to say you were doing the generative AI image thing before it was cool. I'm just going to say that. I don't know if that's like accurate, but before it was cool. Now everyone's doing it. Even people doing it now are pretty early. Of course, Sob is one of the early new generation artist himself. But when I'm doing it, I'm playing around with it. I don't have to struggle like you did. I just type in my thing. I have a prompt. I can feed an image in. It'll give me the alternate views of that image. And with GPT-3, it's even easier, as you did it right here. And sometimes you have to try it like 20 times or something, but you put in something and go. So, what is your view on the new generation who will never work as hard as you worked, and these tools which you can now use?
Now the tools are advancing so much that there are lots of things to discover. I don't know it. I think it doesn't matter that much whether you did it early or later. If you find a good concept, an idea to work with, I think it's cool overall. And now there is text to image generation, text to video generation. I'm not following much the new stuff, but I'm definitely sure that like lots of cool stuff are made by people. So it's every year, every decade, like the tools to make stuff are getting much easier. But it's up to people and their ideas. Like if they are visionary, they will put up some amazing things.
But this is like really, really fast. But I think what's interesting, like if you want to, get an image of a ceramic cat, right? There has never been a better time in history yet so far to get that image, even if you don't have the ability to make it. But if you want to actually generate, if you want to rip off BGAN punks, even with the help of this software, I think that would be kind of quasi-ironically or whatever. I think it's right. It would be quasi-ironically kind of a difficult thing to do versus creating something that was actually nicer. So it, I think, has become easier to create something non-bastard, but maybe it's still, I don't know, question mark. Maybe it's still kind of difficult. Maybe you still have to fight to create something, that's a bastard. Maybe that's because, the sort of social forces that push us all into the traditional punk mold, control all these pieces of software. And I don't know. This is kind of like rambling at this point, but it wouldn't, I don't think, be it's not like the literal stuff that you have done with the BGAN punks would be easier today, I don't think, or would it be?
Can you repeat your last sentence, please? I just...
Does the advancement in all the tools that we have, though it enables, empowers a lot of people to do a lot of new things they couldn't do in 2019, 2020, would it be easier using the tools we have today to create Bastard Gan Punks than it was at the time?
I think no, because the medium was the message for the project.
And so I think that
I think what made the project unique was how the medium spoke for itself.
But even if you wanted to create something visually the same without the same medium, just literally the picture's the same, I think that would also be very, very hard without the medium, like even just visually speaking. So I think it's like the medium is the message, but also just the image itself is I think very tied up with I don't know how you'd create something like that, like the using like DALL-E. So I think
out of nothing, yes, but like since I have the project, like it's easy to replicate it right now. Probably, it just depends on if you feed it in the algorithm.
Right, that's a good point, because it's like in the style of Van Gogh, you could do it in the style of BGAN punks once it gets big enough. But I think for all those AI artists, right, it's like, can your work, making something in this area that stands the test of time is like super hard, because it's getting so much better every second. So go do that, everyone, and you can maybe become successful. So okay, so this has been super, super great. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know it's late there, but people are going to love this stuff. So I thought maybe we could switch gears for a second, talk about other projects, maybe get some tips and tricks people can use to achieve success. Sorry, go ahead, Piv.
I just thought maybe we can talk a little bit about the exhibition, or the appearance of the exhibition, because it looks really impressive. I think you used or you made NFTs as wall material and floor material, which is a very good idea, I think, and even animated NFTs.
Yeah. So first of all, I think I'm not in a place to give advice for success to people, but I can share my thought of process on my works, like on how I approach stuff and how I look at the world, and also to the art creation, because it also applies to the museum. So also when I was doing my master's degree, my topic was how to find the unintended use of things in digital made things, like softwares and platforms and stuff, to create new stuff. So I was heavily interested in video games, so I was making I was working on repurposing the video games on audiovisual performances and installations and stuff. So for this museum, like I should say that my first NFT was a crypto voxels parcel, and the thing I wanted to explore there was to just fuck up all the parameters to get weird results and see like the unintended way of visual artifacts on the medium. So also on cyber, when I got a chance to make a museum by CryptoPunk, so I just checked all the stuff inside, like, okay, what kind of stuff can I tweak to change all the place, because I didn't like the default layout of the place, because it just looked like concrete walls, and you put like frames on the wall. I never liked it. I was never interested in having my work on like physical exhibitions, and on cyber looked kind of the same like the physical exhibitions.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of like I have a project called Glitchpix, which um, came up from the BGAN Punks. I made an airdrop of glitchy images uh, to the BGAN holders, and it became an ecosystem. I made generative artworks and 3D objects and other stuff from them. So it became kind of my visual language of these weirdo, glitchy, pixelated images. So so I tweaked a lot of parameters like the position and the rotating and stuff, and like normally the image should stay at the wall, but I managed it to scale it all throughout to ceiling and the roof. So
Yeah.
it changed the vibe of all the place.
Yeah. No, but if you say the unintended use of it, that's exactly what you did, I think, with it.
Yes,
If you say that the skills were based.
usually the problem is that, especially with the cell phone users, the place sometimes doesn't load up, and
Okay.
it may have problems with the
Yeah.
computers. But yeah, the unintended way is because like developers spend a lot of time on building stuff, and they find a use case for their product, and they want their users um, to act in the way they intended.
The top
But
of. Yeah. Yeah.
for video games, there are hackers, there are modders who are just tweaking all the stuff to make weird experience, or just or on the multiplayer games to annoy other people and stuff. But if you think on the art perspective, like the medium you are dealing with becomes a new playground to experiment with
Mhm.
new things. Like it doesn't have to be the way the developers wanted you to make. It can go beyond that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very, very cool. I think, yeah, the other thing I love about video games and thinking about video games is that there's typically in a video game some kind of point thing. Here's your points. Here's how many points you have. Here's how you're doing. And, I think that if you're designing any web page, you should be looking at it through that lens. One thing I've always wondered about Wikipedia is like, where are my points if I'm on this thing? Like, how do I know I'm a good editor or whatever it is? Like, and that's what I think, NFTs, for all the problems and however crass it is, at least there is some, and, there's bad elements of the game, but at least you get some, game element. But I agree with you. It's sort of the tropes of the video game area are much more, you better be prepared for people to play here and have affordances for that versus I
Mhm.
actually like the concrete garbage thing, just because I think that, like, it's for someone who's not as skilled with the glitch thing. You can make something that looks really really bad. So I think for the average person, like I am, it actually makes it easier to do something that looks okay, but you do look like a boomer. And certainly anyone logging into your thing for the first time, as I did, is going to think like, whoa, like this is definitely like pretty cool. Like this is not something that is an everyday thing for me. So yeah, I encourage everyone. It's in the pinned tweet. Please look at this. Um, I promise you will not regret it. And in fact, I promise you will love it. So yeah, so let me just jump into quickly other projects, other things you're thinking about, the future, the past, other topics. One thing that just I love, and I think how you speak of it in your thesis and your philosophy is actually let me just real quick before let's reset the room a little bit, and I want to just read an excerpt from your philosophy. And I think you said this a moment ago, basically, but I just want to read this because it kind of, you say, my artistic statement, I don't know if this is still true, but at one point you wrote this, it's still up. My artistic statement is everything is a remix. Every bit and byte has more potential affordance than the creator intended. Every digital being can be bent. Errors are beautiful mirrors. Corruption is holy grail. I actually said more affordance than creator. I added the, which I should have been. Corruption is holy grail. Noise is da sensei. Machines are the best. And so, I don't know if I like errors personally, but like, do you still agree with that philosophy?
Well, yes. when I go to a bus station and the display has an error and has a weird artifacts, I love watching it.
That's
It
actually good.
looks
But yeah, it'll say
it
like
sounds very
reset.
autistic, but yeah.
the yeah, if you're on an airplane and the screen is like BIOS error, restart the thing. That to me, I think that type of error also I think is like just kind of terrifying because it's like behind every well-programmed, whatever display is like Windows 95 ready to jump out at you. That's a great
I
example.
also wonder, maybe you should explain it, Middlemarch, but the SVG thing, I think Berk might find it quite interesting that an SVG looks different in a different browser.
Yes, there was someone who made, I think, the one of the Da Vinci or Mona Lisa or something on SVG, and on every browser it looked pretty different.
Yes, but we have this with this project Youngs that we did. There's like a grainy filter over it, and it's also the same. It looks quite different in every browser, and then Tom says that you don't have a standard for your artwork.
Yes, it's very fascinating.
Yeah, this is like the on-chain thing, which is really what first interested me in NFTs. The idea that you could host, a big project and it would be hosted, quote unquote, hosted only on the blockchain, and then there'd be, no worry about paying a bill to keep the images up or someone deleting them. You'd be there forever. And then since that time, I've become kind of disillusioned with the whole idea because typically these things that are quote unquote hosted, they're SVGs. That's the quote unquote file format. I would not even call it a file format. And what that means, not that the thing is around forever, but the thing is around forever only if you have a suitable web browser for viewing it on. And web browsers are these super complicated pieces of software that obviously are not hosted on chain and have to exist. And even if you have a web browser, web browsers can't actually display these things because they're too complicated. So like there's SVG filters, which are things where you can put an element in an SVG that'll create like a clouds-like effect or a noise-like effect. And these filters are inherently, chaotic. And then of course there's, just the very basic complexity issues with SVG. Like if you draw on an SVG like a billion circles, like obviously that is a valid image that will produce something in someone's field of vision that they can see. And if it's a PNG, you can represent what they will see. But if it is an SVG, the browser will crash if you try to do that. And so, I just think that and that's its own kind of glitch thing, kind of, and with enough computing power, the perfect browser. But I find that to be, and of course, it's not supportable in the Twitter hex, which I still like. So I find that to be kind of depressing and cool that the purist maxi community that I was once really dyed in the will part of is really advocating for something that is inherently glitched, even as they are also saying this is the most pure technical, whatever thing. So yeah, the SVG file format I think is really a problematic one, basically. But I don't know if have you done work in SVG on, this is something I don't actually know. Of course, the BGANs are IPFS and PNG. Has there been work that you've done that you're interested in where you have rendered the SVG directly from the contract or something like that?
Yeah, I fiddled around with it a little bit, but I haven't been able to put a work on it. But I mean I still haven't learned much about how to algorithmically create SVG images in a way I'm interested in. I had tried a couple of things, but yeah, actually first of all, I would be very happy if you would share the project you mentioned to me, because I think it will be inspirational for me.
Of course, it would be our pleasure. It's a CryptoPunks derivative, so you'll be able to find your way around, so to speak. It's got the good stuff. I mean, what is nice about the SVG and on-chain thing when it comes to the Punk specifically is the Punk's data by Larva Labs, although we think it was Larva Labs. There's no way to actually prove it, but basically we believe it. By Larva Labs, the Punk's data was put on chain. And so if you want to do a derivative of a CryptoPunk thing, then you have the ability to create something that is a pure derivative, i.e. that actually adds nothing, that purely takes the original data and transforms it in some way. And I am a very big proponent of, no original, ideas, just remix type stuff in your vein. So, that to me is a, and it also touches on the feeding something in aspect. Like you're not feeding the punks into, a training algorithm type thing, but you are feeding the punks into your contract, and your contract has ideally no additional data, and it comes out this other way. So it's a cool, area. There's only so many the punks can support, the market can support, but we'll send that one over to you. One thing that, and I just really, and I do want to take questions, so I don't want to get too far into this, but I really like I agree that advice, no one should really be giving advice, but I think philosophically and process-wise, very aligned. And, I just think that if you're trying to create something, and this goes for me, it's like you could try to create something new, right? And if you create something new, there are not that many options, right? There's just like not that many options of new things. But if you take two things that exist and put them together, it's like then you have n squared. You have like the total number time to multiply by the total number. Like if there are 10,000 things, you could either try to make the 11,000 thing, or you could do 10,000 times 10,000 and pick one of those. Anyway, so when it comes to that, the purest thing you can do is literally copy something. And that's what you did with your latest project, the copy minting. And kind of curious, I checked out and I encourage people, by the way, to check this out. It's on Berk's website. You can check it out. Copy mint. It's you might ask yourself the question, hey, how could I make a contract that allows anyone to copy an NFT? Everyone's always talking about right clicking. Turns out, technologically speaking, it's not so complicated. You can't understand it. And it's like actually understanding it is a good thing if you're trying to get into programming. Really cool, simple concept, and it works. A bunch of things have been copied. Could you talk a little about this, your latest project?
So, when was it? So on May or April, I think, Rider Rips. Do you know Rider Rips?
Yes, I know. I know.
Okay, Rider Rips Rider Rips was just like copy minting the Bored Ape stuff for his political fight.
Yes, I was actually one of the developers on that project, so I'm deeply.
Oh, okay, cool, really cool. Okay.
Deeply familiar with that.
So when he started minting on Foundation, I was like, I saw it. Okay, this is interesting, but I think there could be a more interesting way to do that. So I came up with the idea of okay, I'm going to publicize my wallet. So I wrote a contract, and I made a small project called CopyMint Berk. So people could claim IDs from my wallet and copy mint them. And it's still on. It was the previous domain name of the project, but I changed it now. copymintme.berkozdemir.com. So months passed, and there were a couple of community members who told me to do this for every NFT possible, and I was also positive towards that, but I was lazy to do it. But then, like a couple of weeks ago, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this project, and I wrote the smart contract, prepared the website, and also deployed on different blockchains. And so basically, you can claim any ERC 721 NFT on existence copy mint it, and it will show up in your wallet with the same metadata and image and stuff. So the reason for me is not for advocating the robbery or anything, because it is not how it works. I think this is a homage to the old peer-to-peer download systems and torrents and stuff, because like with NFTs it has always been this meme of like, okay, I'm right clicking and saving it and it's mine stuff. And I was like, okay, why not? Because like I think people should right click and save the NFTs and save for themselves. Like they can copy mint, and they can also own a copy of the original, because the original is not going anywhere. You are not stealing anything, you are just forwarding like you are just pointing the image. I don't know, I thought this was a cool idea, because I think like the biggest obstacle the crypto and NFT world right now is having is to include new people, especially in the bear market. Like last year, lots of new people were coming in, but now you are seeing all the hype is gone. Like no one is talking about the metaverse and and also the NFTs on the mainstream and stuff. Like people started to forget about it. But I think these kind of projects, and I'm not the first to do this project. I just found out that there were 2 or 3 people who did a very similar projects, but they got delisted from OpenSea. Hopefully mine is not going to be delisted. I didn't check.
Yes.
I didn't check their project that much, but I think their intentions were similar to mine. But I think these kind of goofy projects are just like kind of educative, like showing how the medium works, and also like a fun way to, I don't know, include people to do whatever they want with the medium.
Yeah.
It's not a very serious project, but in a way also it's serious, I can say.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think anyone out there who's interested in smart contract development, you think in your head, how do you copy mint? That must be hard to do, or not hard to do, but like complicated, or like a lot of lines of code. You should really check this contract out. My only criticism, if you can call it that, of the project is that because it's ERC 721, you can't copy mint the CryptoPunks, the original NFT that started the whole
Yeah.
craze. So that is that artistic, or I mean that's kind of a big deal, you know? CryptoPunks, I mean, come on, there's the alien CryptoPunks and so forth.
Yeah, I didn't think about that when I was doing it, because then for CryptoPunks and also all ancient projects you need to include their kind of standard, but it is also a problematic. Then it would complicate the project, like the code a lot. Like if this
Yeah,
is a
no.
CryptoPunks contract, do this and do this, and if this is something else, do this. But yeah, maybe I could do that, but I didn't. I don't expect people to mint CryptoPunks that much.
Yeah,
Actually,
I might
when
be
I
weird.
saw when I saw NFTs with no metadata, I checked them and it was all CryptoPunks.
It's funny. Oh
Yeah,
wow. Yeah, the punks still have this everyone loves to hate them in a way, or loves to, but yeah, I think you're right, you can't do special cases, but I think you know, for crypto, one special case, the iconic ones. But I think it's a great project. I think it's a great learning device for anyone interested in kind of doing weird stuff and looking at it. One idea that I had, or actually a friend of mine, Whale Goddess, had, but I talked about it with him, was to do this sort of thing, but do it for contracts. So say, okay, you come and you mint, and you don't just get, you know, call it doodles. You don't just get this, or call it a Zuki. I saw some Azuki in there. I don't think I saw any doodles when I changed Zuki. You don't just get a Zuki number 20. You get an entire clone of the entire Zuki contract. And now you can actually start minting all of the Azukis, and they can be your own, Azuki. So this is something that I'm thinking about and want, and then you can keep the mint proceeds too. So it really is the ultimate clone, where you don't just steal the NFT, you steal the entire idea and actually mint the whole thing out again. But complicated. That's something the idea can
Actually,
be.
it's very doable, and I like the idea. Yeah, why not?
All right, Will got us. If you're listening to this, I know I'm doxing you on this idea. Sorry, but you really have to do the idea now, or you got support from a lot of luminaries right now, and one luminary in particular, Berk. So, Will, guys, if you're listening to this, keep listening. Do the idea. Okay, cool. So this has been an amazing conversation. I mean, I think I want to pause just for a moment and see if there's anyone out there in the audience. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. If you blow it, it's on you. If you have any question to ask Berk, or you could ask anyone in the audience too if you want, if there's someone else out there. I see a hoodie BGAN, so obviously calling people out. Wasoshi has is obviously has the inside track, so that's cool. Very much an insider. Anyone out there, I'm calling out Mad Yak, calling out Joel, who has the iconic PFP, Yolk, of course, Chia Maximalist. Anyone have a question, or have Piv and I done, and Berk probably asked and answered some questions that we had himself. Have we done the perfect job? Okay, no dead air. Piv, what are you thinking?
Yeah, it's really been a great conversation.
Actually, or you keep going, Piv. I actually, okay, keep going.
No.
I have one more thing. Okay,
yeah.
And then we, because we're really going crazy here, and this is super helpful. But one thing, and I'm pretty good at like reading stuff and understanding it sometimes. But one project that I thought was pretty interesting is the decentralized numbers project. It's an artificial number, and it's defined on the smart contract, and it works in some predefined way that I was not, under the time constraint, able to understand how this thing works, but it looks cool. This is maybe not the most interesting for everyone out there, but for me, for the nerds, this one looked pretty nerdy and cool. Can you just talk a little bit about this one?
Oh man, this is the first time someone is asking me about this.
I knew it. I knew it was a nerd question. Sorry, but yeah, go.
No, it's pretty, because this is how I dove into the blockchain and NFTs and stuff. Like it is the genesis stuff I was very interested in. Like so when I was doing my master's degree, I was just fiddling around to new technologies like the AI, blockchain, and stuff, and I was just looking for stuff, conceptual stuff on what kind of stuff could I make, and with the blockchain, when I read about how it operates, I was thinking like, okay, how what if I put like in every block there would be decimals instead of a number, and it would go to infinity like pi number and stuff. It would be a weird kind of irrational number that would be no use, but someone would find a use for it or something. And actually with this idea of, like, I found out NFTs.
Interesting. Interesting.
Because I had this idea like, okay, we will generate a number between 0 and 10. It will be a decimal number, and decimals will be determined by people, and people will own their decimals, so they will have their memory on it.
Right. So I see there's, when you mint it, you get basically the address. Basically you're assigning an owner here on you say addresses, location is message sender, and so you're sort of saying, and then you add to the, but just on the most basic level, are you basically saying, okay, you've got a decimal number, and each digit in that decimal number can be added by someone in the index that they added, they own. So if the decimal number is 0.123, and I add 4, then I own 0, 1, 2, 3, then I own index 3 basically, and it just keeps going on. And you can add any digit you want and have it go on forever, basically.
So this will be a number living forever, and you can have your birthday in it, and your cell phone in it, or anything in it. Like it was a very naive idea. Then I tried to implement it to an NFT contract, but then I didn't like it. Then I made it a staking game on near blockchain. Then I didn't like it either. Then I just made the most simplistic way of the smart contract on Ethereum, like almost 2 years later, and just left it there, just for the sake of kind of doing it, because this was my first idea, but I hadn't produced anything for it, and and every person I talked about this was like, what the fuck.
I think it's great. So, but it says total decimals 256. That means that there's only 256 quote unquote NFTs that you can actually mint in the form of digits. Is that the idea?
So yeah, but in my contracts, they are not even NFTs. They are just numbers stored on the blockchain. You don't.
I think of them, well, CryptoPunks. I think of them as like non. They got, it says who owns. I think of it as an honorary NFT. So that means it's actually a pretty small supply, and this is a very early and misunderstood project. So these could be. I guess you can't transfer them. Can you transfer them? Oh, maybe, you can't transfer them. Or maybe you can. Okay, if you can transfer them, I'm just going to say, free quote unquote alpha for the audience. You might want to pick up some digits. No, I'm not going to say that actually. But are there still digits left to go on this project?
Lots of.
Lots. Yeah, I guess it's not like not your most. Yeah, it's a little more niche. So yeah, maybe I'll pick up a digit or two after this. But yeah, that's a great. Actually, that's really
when
great
the gas is low, you can do it. I think, and also it's also Avalanche chain.
No, no, it's on mainnet. No, I'm looking at it.
It's on mainnet and on Avalanche C chain. Yeah.
Ah, got it. So if you want to, well, I don't believe in that kind of thing. I'm just trying to, I'm a mainnet. I'll take the. I'll take the risk. I'll take the risk. So then, a digit. Okay, yeah, I think.
It's in memory. You will contribute to a number for some reason.
Yeah,
then maybe in 100 years it will be something constant.
I think, yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is the exact number that describes, but it is a rational number in the end because it terminates. So it's not, we will. Yeah. So, okay, good. I'm a very rational minded person. So that's nice too. That's nice to know that. Okay, cool. Anyone have any final questions? Otherwise, we're going to wrap this short and sweet. This might be, top one of the top podcast episodes I think we've done in terms of just, obviously you didn't get direct advice from Berk, but you did, I think, get a lot of stuff that can help you, because that's kind of a big part of what we're here. We want to inspire you, want to help you, but also just very interesting content. And, also you got some takeaways. You can go look at the Copy Mint collection. You can go visit the On Cyber gallery. You can go buy an original V1 BGAN Punk, except you can't because that's 6.5 ETH floor. So sorry about that, but you can copy mint it, and that's free. So are those free? Is Copy Mint free?
Yeah.
Yeah, Copy Mint for free. So you can either buy it or Copy Mint it for free.
And yeah, I just copy mint the V2 and tattooed it on my arm.
But how do you know it's the Copy Mint?
I saw that. Yeah.
People aren't going to know it's the copy. No, I guess that's the point, or maybe that's the point. That's very
What's
cool.
the point that it's copy minted? You mean the copy mint? Yeah, I get.
You could have tattooed the original.
So yeah, because I didn't own the original, but I have the copy minted one, so I tattooed it.
God. Okay, so you basically it's immoral to tattoo someone else's NFT, so you have to copy mint it and then tattoo your own NFT.
I don't fucking care about that much actually, but but I have to make a point. Like I was going to tattoo it anyways, but I did it after I copy minted it.
Yeah, no, I think that's good because many tattoo parlors will check to see if you own the. Okay, so that I think that's a very funny. That's very funny to tattoo the copy minted. Anyone out there have NFT tattoos? If not, you can now have the power to get anyone that you want. Thank you all so much.
The best tattoo artist. So
for the best. So yeah, actually, I guess it was this in. I guess it says on the site you live in Istanbul, so that's not doxing you in any way. This was in Istanbul.
No problem. Yeah, I'm already doxed. So.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I guess your whole name and everything is out there. I'm always, I got my name, my face on here. I'm fully up. And if anyone's in Istanbul, you could hang out with Berk, but you could probably go to his tattoo parlor. So if you're on the fence about going to Istanbul and you're on the fence about getting a tattoo and you don't know if you can get a tattoo of someone else's NFT, copy mint it. Go to Berk's tattoo parlor, and you will have the tools to succeed in AI art and NFTs. Thank you all so much, Berk. This was incredible. We're going to send you Yunks, and hope we can, talk again or attend another one of your shows or see some new stuff that I'm sure you're thinking about. No pressure. We'd love to see it. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And a special thank you to Piv for making this happen. And thank you to myself for also playing a role. This is Thanksgiving in America, so we all have a lot to be thankful for.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. And
yeah, thank you a lot for having me. I had a really fun talk, and yeah,
awesome.
It's very great.
Yeah,
podcast
it's been great. Thank you.
This has been so great. All right, well, thank you all so much. And if you're out there in Capital 21 podcast land listening to this, good job. You made it. You're next. Capital 21 out.